Hello and welcome to the Frugal Crafter podcast. I'm Lindsay Weirich, and today I have fellow art YouTuber and teacher Miranda Watson on the show from the channel Alkali Creek Art. Miranda, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, yes, it's so nice to be able to hang out with you. And it's fun because I recognize your mural in the background, and I don't know, it's just kind of cool to see it in real life.
Right? I love that
So
thing.
you've been on, yeah, it is so cute. Did you paint that, or was it in the house when you bought it, or?
It was in the house when we bought it, and I called up the old owners last year and I asked him, I go, who painted this? And apparently his daughter painted it, and I just adore it. It's perfect for an art studio.
Yes, it's so cute. My son used to love that movie Cars when he was like a little tyke, and every time I see that, I'm just like, oh, it's so sweet. I'm so glad you kept it because I think a lot of homeowners would just, paint over something like that was left by a previous owner.
Yeah, I did think about changing it, but I was going to use the peel and stick wallpaper so that I could get it back anytime I wanted. But I couldn't. I like it too much.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's awesome. That's a great idea, though, if you ever wanted to temporarily change it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just cute to see. So we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff today in the podcast. And if you're listening to this in your favorite podcast player, hop on over to YouTube if you want to see that beautiful mural in the background or see any other things that we may reference throughout the chat. Since the interview does go out on Spotify and all the podcast players as well as YouTube, there's so many different options. So I want to talk about your YouTube channel that's been you've been on YouTube for about 4 years, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. What inspired you to start the channel?
A couple of things. The biggest thing is that I had a lot of art subscription boxes, and I wanted to share the opening of them with more than just myself. Mm-hmm. And I also had all of these art supplies. This was the biggest reason. All these art supplies because of the subscription boxes and just growing up in a crafty family. My grandma was crafty. I just had a lot of things that I was never using because when it's not your job or you don't have an accountability, it's really easy to let other household tasks take priority, like dishes or vacuuming or making dinner. I mean, there's so many things we'll put as a higher priority than our art. So I thought if I start a YouTube channel, I know what they say. You have to put out consistent videos. It will force me to use all of this delicious stuff that I have in my house. So that's the biggest reason I started it.
Oh, wow. That's a great accountability idea, I think. I actually think I was surprised to find that you'd only been on YouTube for 4 years because I must have found you pretty early on in your journey, or you found me or whatever, because I remember a video you did where you were like clearing out or organizing all these subscription boxes. And I thought it was pretty interesting because I'd only experienced the Smart Art boxes and the Annie's Kit Club boxes. Those are the only ones that I had tried. Oh, I think I tried an Art Snack box. So I was really curious to see what was in those boxes. And it's kind of nice when people share that online because you get to look at it without having to buy it yourself. So it kind of can save you a little bit of money. You can kind of see what's in there. And you get that little bit of a vicarious, like, oh, I'm opening a present, and then I don't have to figure out where to put it. They can live at Miranda's house and I get to see what's in there. So that was fun. So when I look back, and because I always go back and research my guests, obviously we've chatted online in the comments and whatnot for years.
Right.
And I was like, oh, she's only been on for 4 years. You're a natural. So I thought you were on for much longer. And I thought that was really interesting. Something else I think is really interesting about you is that you teach at a college. Can you explain how you got into that and what it's like to teach at the college level?
Absolutely. So I actually started teaching at the college in the year 2000. I have an engineering degree in computers, and I just didn't enjoy sitting in front of a computer by myself programming all that time, even though I did it for several years. So to use my degree, I started teaching at the college. And about 4 years ago, the college was asking all the instructors for ideas on fun or interesting classes to bring to the community so they could get more community involvement. and I suggested watercolor and that I wanted to teach it. And so they had me try it out, and it's been an ongoing thing since then. So now I teach watercolor, oil painting, drawing, acrylic, and just kind of like any kind of mixed media, water-based kind of classes, and my computer classes.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize you taught computer classes. That's so interesting. So is the art classes, is that for the general students, or is it a community outreach program, or
They
both?
call it community education. And so what they have is their credit-based classes on one side and their community-based classes on the other. And the community education classes are a lot more affordable than credit classes, and anyone can sign up, even kids.
Mhm. Oh, wow. The engineering, computer or engineering classes that you teach, are they is that like the focus of the school that you're teaching at?
No,
Or
they
is it?
are a general education college.
Mhm.
So they actually do go up through bachelor's degrees, but it's mostly like associate in arts, associates in science, pretty general. And
Mhm.
then the bachelor's, you can get more higher degrees in nursing, education, and business, I believe.
Oh, wow. That's neat. And then so you have that balance of teaching the credit classes and then the fun art classes.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. So what's your age range for your students currently in the art classes?
Generally in the art classes, my youngest has been a 12-year-old, but she was very mature. And then my oldest, I believe she's in her mid 80s, and
Oh,
they're
nice.
all such a joy, and it's so much fun to have the variety in ages in my classes, and we just become really good friends. So we actually get together outside of the classes and we paint in a group. So I've started that up in our community, and it's just a nice way to meet people and hang out with like-minded people.
Oh, absolutely. I joined joined, it's a pretty informal group, but the Plein Air Painters of Maine, and people will post when they're going to go out and paint, and then we can meet up with them, or if you're going to go somewhere, as long as it's free and there's like bathroom facilities somewhere convenient, you could post it in the group, and it's pretty cool. It's nice to see positive groups and positive people doing things that they enjoy versus people just complaining online, I think.
Yes, I've heard you mention your plein air group, and I just think it's such a great idea. I love that.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, because you're in Colorado, right? So it's very seasonal, and our summers are so short, so you've got to get out whenever the weather's good.
Exactly. And the fun thing about our painting get together is because it's more informal, we can do it at each other's homes. And we tend
Mhm.
to drop off in the winter, even so, because driving can be pretty precarious around here, especially where we all live. But we can still get together throughout the entire year. So it's pretty fun.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, one thing I like to mention is, and I did a podcast last week where we were talking about different ways that people can earn a living with their art. And a lot of times people don't really think about their local community as a place where they can really serve others that want to be enriched by art. And like you're teaching at the school, and you've got those groups that have grown beyond that, and people volunteering at their library and teaching classes in their homes. There's so much you can do and so much impact you can make locally, I think.
Yeah. And I want to get a hold of the local rec centers too, because they love to do little 3 hour or half day workshops for people for art and crafts and fun stuff like that. And I think it would just be a fun way to reach even more people.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I wanted to talk to you because of a video you recently posted that was called Massive Art Haul, 4 months of supplies, a lifetime of supplies actually, and a permanent no buy. When I saw that, I couldn't click fast enough because I had to know more. So this haul to end them all really piqued my curiosity. Can you tell me what inspired that video and your decision to stop buying art supplies?
So I knew I was going to buy, no, let me rephrase that. I knew I was going to stop buying art supplies probably before Christmas. And that created a sense of panic in myself a little bit and a little bit of fear of missing out. So I set a date for myself, which happened to be April 15th of this year, of course, that after that date, I couldn't buy anything, but before that, I could buy whatever I wanted. And so I thought really hard about it, and I decided that there were several brands of watercolors and gouache, and several brands I already own, a couple of additional colors that I wanted to make sure I had before I stopped buying art supplies. So I did. I kind of went crazy, although when you add up the dollar amount I spent, it actually wasn't that much when you think about it. But I guess that's all subjective. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I had several brands that I could try and compare, because in the future I have a lot of ideas for watercolor comparisons. And I'm also very intrigued with gouache, so I wanted to make sure I had some of that. And that's how I chose to buy the things I bought. The no buy is a whole different avenue.
Yeah, I've done no buy months because I'll get off the rails. I think it's my curiosity that's the most that's a driving force against me wanting to try different things. Like I'll find a pen I really like, and then it's like, oh, I like this pen, but will I like that one more or that one? I better try that one too. And then I get kind of swept up in this kind of fear of missing out, like you were saying. And then I have all these pens and I'm overwhelmed, um and so okay, no buy for a month, and then I'll, kind of get myself back to the point where I can just buy a tube of paint and have a thrill rather than having to buy a whole set to get that same sort of dopamine hit. So when I watched this video, I thought to myself, can I do that? Could I do that? Kind of like I love to see people challenging themselves. And the first feeling that came over me was just a sense of relief, like, oh, how freeing that would be to not have to buy another thing, just use up what I have, maybe buy something if I run out of it. But then I almost immediately felt this feel of panic because it was like, well, a lot of my views come from product reviews, and how, my channel would suffer if I wasn't posting frequent product reviews, because whether it's what people want or if it's what YouTube pushes, I'm not sure which it is, or a combination of the two. I would worry that I would be damaging my channel. Have you had that sort of fear about your channel?
Yes, definitely. But I think the advantage that I have is that I'm not an established channel as far as the amount of subscribers like you have, for example. And I have a little bit more freedom in that case to do what I want, because I'm not at the stage where I am depending on my YouTube income. What I depend on is my awesome community. We've really become friends in the comments and on my Patreon. And I just really look forward to that conversation that I have with people on YouTube. And I think that this no buy, because I'm going to document it, spreadsheets, the whole works, is going to really spur on some great conversations and some interesting observations, maybe about life and how much we actually can use up. But if I was depending on my YouTube as income, this probably would be a death knell for sure. Because I always click on art hauls first when I see them on YouTube. That's like, oh yes, let me watch that first. So I understand.
It's kind of like, yeah, it's like candy. It's kind of like, I get to watch this person shop and I don't have to shop. And I can kind of get that thrill of opening the packages without having to open the packages. So yeah, I get that too. Did you inventory everything you had before you decided to do this, so you'd have enough?
Not really. I started an inventory last year, and then I reorganized my studio, and because everything was in a different place, I lost track of where and what I was inventorying. And I realized while it was kind of neat to have the inventory, at least the part that I had finished, it really wasn't necessary. I pretty well know what's in my studio. I just don't use it. And that was another, the biggest reason for the no buy is I have all these art supplies. I've probably had some of them since childhood, and they're still good. I need to use them up. I have these wonderful large canvases, probably 4 feet by 5 feet, Michael's did a buy one, get two free sale, and they did it again this year, but I missed it, thank goodness. But I bought probably 20 huge canvases, and because I'm always bringing new stuff in the studio and oh darn, having to showcase that on my channel because I want to share it with everyone, I don't have the time. I haven't taken the time to use those big canvases, and I have a huge desire to create big art, and I want to delve deep into my supplies and see what I actually love. I have so many watercolor brands. I know I love Core, for example, but maybe there's other colors and other brands that I'm going to love just as much. And I don't know that because with all the new stuff coming in, I can never really dive deep into painting with any of my brands. I paint surface level is how I feel with them. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for this journey because I think that all of these art supplies are going to get far more used.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see how this goes and to watch your journey on this. I remember towards the beginning of the pandemic, there was like a ultramarine blue scare that like ultramarine blue, like one of the factories that manufactured French ultramarine had closed. And so there was only like one or two factories left that was making it. And I was like, do I need to stock up? And I went through all my paints and I counted up all my tubes of ultramarine blue and I felt fine after that. But it was kind of like, just it was weird and it was totally ridiculous, but I kind of felt that panic that like, well, what if it runs out and I can't use it? But then again, I'm also thinking, well, if it runs out and nobody else can get it, it's not like I could really use it for a tutorial because if nobody else can get it, then
Right.
yeah, I can't use that in my business. And you mentioned those big canvases, and the first thing that came to mind is that it is so hard to create to match the pace of buying. You know what I mean? Like it's so easy to buy 5 canvases, but it's hard to paint 5 canvases. And something else you said was wanting to work large. I used to always work large, but when I started my YouTube channel, I've just gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. I've gotten square to fit the frame on Instagram. And I think when I was watching, I don't know, this such a you have such a refreshing voice and
Aw.
you just seem so open and sweet and refreshing to share this journey that I'm like, we gotta talk about this because I think the voices like these need to be amplified. And I'm saying this from the evil devil on the shoulder showing somebody the brand new thing that just came out. But I'm like, no, we should be more like her.
Well, it's funny because I had this little palette on my desk, and this is that Himi Mia palette I started an experiment with back in 2020 to see how long it would take me to use up the paint. And I use this thing diligently. Like I am actively trying to use up this watercolor paint. And these are only half pans. I have painted hundreds of square inches, hours and hours and hours. I can't even tell you how many paintings. And it's still practically full except for the black and the white. And so that alone tells me that I'll be long dead and all of my art supplies will still be here. So I better figure out what I love and not leave all this for my kids to deal with when I'm gone.
I remember you doing that experiment with that palette, and I'd catch your videos. I'm like, wow, she's still using it. There's still so much left.
Yeah.
And that was probably like, I think that was like around a $25 palette, right?
Yeah, this one actually was like $12. If you got the little bullet capsule it
Oh,
came in, it
wow.
was about $18.
And when we think of spending, well, I don't want to speak for everyone, obviously, but when you're used to spending money on art supplies, like artist grade art supplies from the legacy brands, they're expensive. So you just pay $20 on a tube of paint. So you see that for like under $20, sure, no, it's a no-brainer. But it's like we don't compute the amount of time it would take us to actually consume that amount of paint. And I feel like our consumption appetites have really got out of whack with and I have a lot of cognitive dissonance with that because I feel like I'm fueling a lot of that and part of the problem. So that's one of the reasons I want to talk to you because it's like, you've seen the light. You've seen the light. It's like I want to be better.
Well, and I think we have brand loyalty because it's the brand either we started with or we're used to. But the example I keep using in my videos is if I run out of my favorite yellow, I bet you there's another brand's yellow in my arsenal here I'm actually probably going to love just as much. And I am excited to find out.
Yeah. And I think that we do have that brand loyalty and we have our favorites, but when you're dealing with like the legacy brands, I feel like there's not a huge amount of quality difference between, say, Daniel Smith and Core and Da Vinci and Winsor& Newton. If you took a cadmium yellow from all of those brands, Schminke, I mean, there'd be Sennelier, there'd be slight working differences. Like one may be a little stickier, one may be a little bit more fluid and disperse a little bit more. But as far as the quality, it's going to be about the same. And I feel like I see a lot of hunting for that perfect cobalt teal or that perfect French
Right.
ultramarine. And it's like the differences are so minute between the brands that that if you could just be happy with what you had and spend that energy using and learning the materials you do have, like you said, instead of being surface level with every brand of paint really diving in, uh, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Maybe that I feel like we kind of look for that latest and greatest, like it's going to somehow improve us as artists or somehow give us some magic sauce or something to our art, but it's just more. It's not better. It's just more.
Yeah. And I will go into my drawer and my shelves of art supplies because I'll show a haul and then I won't have time to go through all the supplies. So I have drawers and shelves full of previous haul supplies that I still haven't gotten to because I'm just me and I can't do art every day. I have a very, very busy life outside of art. And it stressed me out to see all the beautiful stuff I had bought that I wasn't getting to. So the fact that it's all just halted and I can start bringing them out one at a time is just bringing me like this incredible sense of happiness.
Mhm. Excuse me. There's another creator I watched. Her name was Hannah Louise Poston. Have you ever heard of her? She's actually in the like fashion and beauty vertical, but she was the first person I ever heard of doing a no buy, and she did a no buy year, and then she documented it and talked about it. And this year she said she had like changed from buying supplies to browsing, and she was finding that there was something about that, just that browsing online, that she had to like set up rules for browsing, that she would only browse on um, like weekends and she'd only buy on Sunday or something like that. But she had to cut her browsing down because it it was taking up tons of her time, even though she wasn't buying anything. Have you found anything like that similar?
No, not yet. Because I just finished buying all that stuff. And I realized because I did browse today briefly because I think somebody had mentioned a PO48 that I didn't even know Core had. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I should have gotten that or if I had that. So I looked real quick, but then I realized I'm like, it doesn't matter. I don't need it. So
Mhm.
I shut the browser down and I felt fine. But I think it's going to be a change for my body to not get the dopamine kick from purchasing. Instead, it's going to be delayed dopamine from using something up. It'll come. It's
Mhm.
just going to be a little bit longer.
Mhm. Well, you'll get dopamine from actually creating the artwork and seeing the finished artwork too, I think. It's just
I
a
agree.
little bit more of a slow burn. It's not that instant gratification. Um, it just takes a bit longer. Are you tempted to click the links if you watch a YouTube video to just to go see like
Oh,
what it looks like?
I always click the links.
Yeah, it's hard not to. I'm curious. I think when you see somebody, because I'm trying to like nail it down, what is it that is so tempting? And I think it's that curiosity. It's like, ooh, what is that? That's interesting. I haven't seen that before. That's new. And then I end up going down the rabbit hole. And and I know I have something similar, and training myself to say, okay, what do you have that will do that thing instead? And that's what I always used to do. But I think it just became easier for me, maybe for you too, having the YouTube channel as an excuse to buy that thing, to try that thing. It's like, because there's so many things I was like, oh, that's neat. I would never think about ordering it. But now it's kind of like, oh, maybe other people would like to see this thing. So that like makes me justify the purchase. And it's so easy to justify it. And I've definitely been kind of like looking in the mirror and saying, is that really, am I really doing what's best for myself and for others? If I'm showing this thing, because I'll tell myself that, well, if I buy it and it's junk, then other people don't have to waste their money. But on the other hand, it's like, would these other people even know about this thing if I didn't show it on my channel? Like, what is the cost benefit analysis? Am I creating the want monster in other people just to just to satisfy my want monster and buying it, or am I making more people want to buy it, or am I making people say, oh yeah, I wondered about that, now I know it's no good, I'm not going to buy it? I just kind of wonder what the result of the actions are. I don't know, because I definitely have a little cognitive dissonance myself in that respect.
Yeah, I think we do buy more stuff because we have a YouTube channel, because before the channel, I never would have purchased this amount of product. But on your channel, you and Kimberly Crick, especially when she was still active, you guys are the two channels I go to before purchasing anything to see what you have to say. Because if you say, oh, it's the same as this and that and this and that and blah, 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 don't waste your money, then I'm like, oh, phew, I don't have to buy it. So I count on your reviews. So I think they're very valuable to our art community as a whole. And I appreciate the fact that you do them. I know people will always give you a hard time about your purchases. That's just the nature of the anonymity here on YouTube, is they can say mean things in your comments that they wouldn't say to your face. But just remember that we do count on your reviews. I think they're very important.
It's good to hear, because sometimes I'm not sure. I'm not sure my motivation. Am I buying this just because I'm greedy and I want to try it, or am I, am I really looking out for the best interest? Because I worry about my ulterior motives. It's like, I want the thing. I want to try the thing. I want to buy the thing, and it's so easy to justify it these days. And then I look at other people's channels. It's like, well, they're buying all kinds of stuff. I'm not as bad as that person, or not to judge somebody else for what they're doing, but it's like, oh, I don't buy that much. I'm not that bad.
Well, and I also don't think that we should underestimate the value of the joy that our art products give us. We have an obligation to ourselves to keep ourselves happy and in a state of joy. And if your art supplies and your purchases are bringing you that joy, then you need to value that, in my opinion.
That's a good point. This year I've called this my year of favorites, and I want to use more of my favorite supplies and less of kind of the lesser alternatives. You know what I mean? I like to find good budget supplies, because I know there's always people starting, there's always people coming into the art industry, and it's a sticker shock when you are coming in to learn watercolor and you see Daniel Smith or you see any of the legacy brands. It's maybe I think there's a lot of value in those, and I think probably for your value for money, you still probably do get a better value from the legacy brands. But when you don't have anything and you need like 12 colors to go take a class, and you're saying that you're spending a couple $100, and you could get like the Mi Liang set of 36 for $20, and you're going to be set for that class, and probably for a beginner not notice the difference between that quality and Daniel Smith. So I think there's value there. But at this point where I have all of the good stuff, I don't know. It's very tough to play the devil and the angel and say, okay, was it better to do this, or is it better not to do that? But this year I'm trying to use more of my favorites and, really get that joy out of using something up. And, if I have to buy a pencil because I've used it down to a nub, that's a good thing. What are your rules around your no buy? Do you have any specific rules?
It's very general right now. I will buy nothing at all until I run out. And so it's the until I run out that people will probably think is a gray area, because it's not if I run out of my core Perylene Violet. No, I am not going to go buy a core Perylene Violet. No, I will use a different Perylene Violet on a different brand. But the example that I gave in my video is, if I am painting with acrylic paint and I'm really enjoying that, and I want to continue painting with acrylic paint, and I run out of white, I'm going to buy a white. If I've used all the white acrylic paint in my studio, I will buy a white. So it's not a torture fest. It's reality, hopefully. Like, let's use up all this other stuff. You have this white and this brand. If you use it and you hate it and you can't use it on your painting, then throw it away and get a white that you can actually deal with. But try it first. So that's basically the rules. I don't want to buy a single piece of watercolor paper until I've used up all the watercolor surfaces I have here. And that should be interesting.
Yeah, and especially because I've noticed with recent watercolor papers, the sizing is not lasting as long as it used to. Have you come upon that at all?
Yeah, I have, and I'm worried about it. And it's another big reason for the no buy too, is because I have companies sending me paper, and then I want to try the Meeden paper, I want to try the Bauhong, I want to try it all. So I bought it all, right? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all this other paper. People's sizings are going bad. I bet mine are. I've had like 2 of my edges on my sketchbook have gone bad. Luckily, just the edges. But I don't want to waste any of that beautiful paper. So
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah, I had a pad. I think it was the Arteza Expert watercolor paper, and the edges went bad. It was so weird. They hadn't sat in water or anything. And I'm surprised where you're in Colorado, it's very dry in Colorado, isn't it?
Very dry. And I think the Edger sketchbook thing, because Becky Tregear in Australia, she had the same thing. The edges just went bad, and it's only the edges. And it actually makes me wonder if maybe they just didn't put the sizing out to the edge, but I don't know. And it didn't bother my painting because I usually tape the edges anyway. But with I have had a couple of students come in and their sizing has gone bad on their paper, but their paper was from, I don't know, very old.
Yes.
Sitting in their closet, I don't know how many years.
Yeah. I've kind of wondered because I remember when I first started doing watercolor, and then when it was in the 90s and I was teaching in person a lot, I would buy thinner paper and I would stretch it, because you could get Arches 90-pound for like half the price of Arches 140-pound. And if you stretched it, it didn't matter because it was going to be tight as a drum. And I wonder, with fewer people stretching their paper now, if maybe companies are putting less sizing in so that they wouldn't be oversized, and that's maybe making them break down a little bit quicker. I don't know if that's for sure, but yeah, that's a theory anyway. So are you going to still accept any product from brands while you're doing the no buy, or just say nope, we're thinning the herd, nothing's coming through the door?
I am. I actually accepted 2 products that should be coming in this next week, just because they're a company that I enjoy working with, Paul Rubens and Lightwish, and I still like new things. So it's not like I get sent new stuff every week. And if that started to happen, I would have to say no, because it's just too much. But they contact me every 4 to 6 months asking if I want to review a product. And if it is something I'm interested in, I'll have them go ahead and send it, because, like I said, I like new things and I'm not buying it. So it's not technically breaking my rules, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of a gray area too. It is bringing more supplies into my studio. But what I did think about is, if it's not like adding a huge amount of, I don't know the right phrase here, but like new art supply that I would really like to have in my studio, maybe I can gift it to someone else after I do the review. But I have to decide, because some of the products I really enjoy and I would like to keep. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think Paul Rubens has done a really good job at designing products for are really high quality for a really low price. And yeah, I too, I say yes to a lot of things from Paul Rubens because I have enjoyed it, unless it's something that they had came up with some watercolor that I've used from a different, like Jerry's Autorama sells the Marie's Master watercolors. And I bought three colors. I bought a yellow, blue, and a red. And they knocked those three colors just knocked my socks off. And then a friend of mine she had, I think she worked at Jerry's and she had a bunch of the tubes. She's like, I'm not going to use these. You want them? I'm like, yeah, I love the three that I bought. And so I had a bunch of tubes already. So I turned that one down because I'm like, I'm pretty sure I reviewed this already. It's right here. But Paul Rubens had a better price than Jerry's did. There, Paul Rubens, I think, is charging 40 and Jerry's was charging like 80 something for the same set.
That's one that
So
they're
I'm like, well,
sending
that's
me.
great. Oh, I think it's a really nice one, which is really funny because I've tried Marie's watercolors in the past and they have not been great. But I learned on Marie's Chinese watercolors when I was 7 and they were great. So I think that Marie's kind of licenses their name out or something because the quality is so inconsistent. And I've heard that modern Marie's China colors are good, but they're like the regular watercolors smell funny and they shrink right up into nothing on your palette. But the masters were great. So I think you'll enjoy them.
I
And
hope
of
so.
course, you've got your classes. So if it's something that maybe you wouldn't use it personally, do you do that? Do you justify with the, well, I'll use it in a class?
Yes, absolutely. Because the college tends to run out of the supplies that they purchase for me to use for the classes, and I go ahead and put in my own personal supplies all the time, and it doesn't hurt my
Mhm.
feelings because I have so many. So it's nice to have.
Yeah, I had wondered about that if you're responsible for bringing all the supplies for your class or if your students bring in their own personal supplies or how that works.
It's a mix. The students have a list, but the college supplies some stuff. But sometimes I forget to tell the college we're out of stuff or their budget is just under what we need. And so I'll go ahead and
Mhm.
supply something, or there'll be something I totally didn't think of that they absolutely need, and I'll just bring it in.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that. I'm leaving for France in a couple of days to teach to do an art retreat, and we had the hardest time finding book board because we're gonna sew a sketchbook to start off because I figured that'll be a great icebreaker. We make our own sketchbook with Arches paper, and everyone will feel good to make it themselves. Plus, it's like if you're not feeling confident about painting in front of strangers, then you're kind of getting be able to just ease into it a bit. But Bookboard in France was like, we were going through the websites that they have access to, and I'm like, no, that's not it. Or it's like, that's really expensive. And then I was worried about cutting it down, having like 16 people cut down and punch the holes for it. And I'm like, that is where the point of failure will be in this project. So I'm like, I got tons. I'm going to cut it down here and I will fly it over with me because I know that everything will be cut and punched perfectly. I can bring some extra. I have it. It's not going to cost me anything because that money is long spent, long, long, long ago. And so yeah, I get that. I teach at the library occasionally. I'll do some community classes there, and the librarian will offer to go pick up whatever I need. It's like, don't worry, I got it. I'm all set. So I find that's a great way to disseminate some art supplies into the community. And they do kids art programs and stuff. So I'll donate stuff. And if I know somebody's got kids that are really into art, providing the stuff I have is appropriate safety wise to the age of the kids, and then I'll pass it along. But still, the room of hoard is quite hoarded up with art supplies.
Yeah, I watched your cleaning your student palettes video over several days while I was working out, and it was really fun to see what you bring to classes. I'm really glad you shared that with all of us.
Oh, thanks. It was very oddly satisfying to clean them all up, and I don't know. I get very it's probably because I have so much stuff that when I can gather a bunch of stuff and put order to it and clean it up and make use of it, it feels good. It feels good to use what you have, basically. And I'm always saying use what you have, but still, I run into the same issue of being tempted um, by everything out there. How do you think the average artist, crafter, and hobbyist is affected by all these hauls, reviews, and influencer marketing that's so prevalent on YouTube these days?
Well, we've hit on this a little bit, but I think that ignorance is bliss. If we don't see it, we don't even know we're missing it in our lives. So having it shown on YouTube and with so many more of us on YouTube consuming the videos, creating the videos, I think that it is creating a huge influx in the raise of people purchasing art supplies. But again, I don't know that that's a bad thing if it's bringing people joy, as long as they're using their supplies. That's the crux right there. They need to be using them. So buy them, use them, then life is good.
Hmm. Yeah, I think
It's
it's the
definitely an
using.
influence.
Yeah, yeah, the using it. It's just so hard to use it up as quickly as you can accumulate it for sure. Unless you're like a child, children can go through art supplies. We need to embrace that childlike um exuberance, I guess, for our painting. It's one thing that I've been noticing a lot is with all the cheaper brands and a lot of people buying the stuff that's a lot cheaper available on Amazon. And now we even have sites like AliExpress and Temu where stuff is even half the price of what it is on Amazon. And the huge hauls from those places. Um, First of all, I don't think there's any way a lot of these creators online or influencers could use up at the pace that they're buying. And then I also think about the legacy companies, the tried and true brands that have put in all the money in research and development, that have created these long lasting products that don't fade, that work reliably. And I'm seeing these older companies really struggling to survive from from the stamping industry, for instance. A lot of their work is getting knocked off, and there's a smaller amount of people in the hobby, and then they're trying to compete with Timu, and then they have to release more and more and more in order to keep their doors open. So that just creates also more and more consumerism because they're selling to fewer people and they're competing with cheaper stuff overseas. And then I see legacy companies like Winsor & Newton is a big one, releasing a lot of, I want to call them subpar products, because they're just kind of going the white labeling route for these kind of like lower grade versions of like their gouache and their colored pencils and their watercolor pencils, kind of doing the white labeling stuff that a lot of the big box stores are doing to kind of like grab some of that money, I think. And I just kind of wonder where it's going to end. Have you noticed anything like that?
I get I get kind of sad when I see the AliExpress and Temu hauls, and I'm not sure why I get the feeling. I think maybe because they're unknown and they are so cheap that you know that they can't be good for companies. So I
Hmm.
refuse to do them, but I watched them. Uh, I think that's another reason I want to do the no buy, is because I want to honor the brands that came out already that I have, and I just don't want to get suckered into the new granulating this and that, or the pearlescent this or that, or the natural
Hmm.
colors that that Schmincke just came out with, and I just don't want to get pulled into it. I, I don't know. That wasn't the greatest
Yeah.
answer in the world, but it's a
No,
hard
no,
subject.
it is a hard subject, and and that's kind of one of the reasons why I want to return back to the like my year of favorites and use Derwent and Karen Dosh and well, the artist grade, I guess. If I'm using Winsor & Newton, they're more artist grade line, or M. Graham, Da Vinci, because these are companies that I want to, when the dust settles, I want them to be the ones that are still standing. I want the ones that have, that pay their workers a fair wage, and that um, produce products without making massive amounts of unknown environmental waste, because we have no idea what's happening in some of the ultra cheap budget supplies. But then again, I also don't want to assume that they're just bad because they're cheap, because we know there's some decent quality stuff, but there's just so much unknown, where we do have transparent companies that we can support. And it might cost a few more dollars a tube of paint or a pencil, but if you don't need to buy 5 sets looking for that perfect thing, you're actually going to spend less money overall. So, uh, so I like it. I think voices like yours are going to help justify not spending when it feels like everybody else is just accumulating and accumulating and accumulating.
I hope people do find it inspiring.
Yeah. What advice do you have for other people that might want to try doing an art supply no-buy?
We are so used to in this day and age getting that dopamine kick that you need to find something that will give that to you. So like you mentioned, Lindsay, that completion of an artwork, that's a pretty big one. So complete some artworks, find exercise. I mean, find something that is going to give that to you. I enjoy watching art hauls. I think that gives me that dopamine kick without even buying anything. So I do like watching them, which I don't know if that's helping or hindering the problem, but and just really digging deep into your art supplies and using them, there's going to be such satisfaction. I mean, I can't even tell you the level of excitement I have to start pulling out some supplies that I've had for years once I don't have to showcase the next new thing. I am so excited for this.
Mm. Yeah, there's definitely a pressure on YouTube creators to constantly be showing something new. And well, this is like last fall, I was so overwhelmed because it doesn't seem, you almost think like, what's the harm? So and so wants to send me this product. I like to try new things. I'll take it. And then the stack grows, probably similar to the subscription boxes when you had done that video a few years ago, and the stack grows, and then it's, that it's so easy to say yes, just like it's so easy to buy a supply that's inexpensive, and then you have to kind of reap what you sow, and it's like, okay, now I need to use these, and you really have to use them if you've accepted them from like a brand, and you want to get that information out to your viewers because you want to give them something they're interested in seeing, and it just gets very overwhelming. And then I found there's been a lot of products where I've used it, and I'll use it over a few days or a few weeks. I'll do a few pieces of artwork to make sure I really know about the product before I review it. But then I wonder, I'm like, is that enough? If I haven't been using this for like 6 months and really see where the shortcomings are, I mean, then I wonder, if is that enough of a review? But if I take 6 months to review it, the company could be no longer selling it, or they could have changed quality. And that, I think that's what really kind of made me question what I was doing when I reviewed some colored pencils, and I thought they were pretty good. And a brand sent them to me, and these are great, $20 for the set. You can't beat it. They were watercolor pencils. They dissolved really well. Their colored pencil version built up really well. I did artwork with it. The artwork was nice. And then it was like about a year later, I was seeing reviews for this product, and it's like they're not using the same product that I was sent, and my review is out there for everyone in the world to see, and now they're going to order that thinking that, okay, it's a good thing, I trust her, I'm going to buy it, and they're getting something completely different. And I don't know if this was all pandemic related, but I know Artesa's stuff changed, and I actually had a person left a comment. She's like, I can't believe you recommended these watercolor pencils to me. I just wasted my money. These are the worst. They don't dissolve. And I felt terrible because when I got my set, they were great. I have no idea what they're selling now. And I feel so bad that this woman wasted her money. Hopefully she sent it back and returned them, because I think brands need to be accountable. But then again, the fact that it was sold at all to people and then it had to be sent back. We know what happens when they send those products back. They most of the time get tossed, or they tell them just don't even bother sending them back. And then, and if it's junk, obviously, if it's just going to be sent out again, it's going to be returned again. So it's yeah, I think a few experiences like that I've had recently has made me really, really like what you're doing.
And I always wonder
So,
too if
oh,
the companies that maybe we don't know much about, if they send out the same product that they're selling. Have you ever wondered that?
I never used to wonder that, but after the last couple of years, especially, the brand that was great that seemed to really go downhill was a brand called Pagos, and I don't even know if they're still selling stuff. But there was a time where any budget product you came across was pretty much junk. It was you get what you pay for. If you went to the big box store and you bought some no-name brand or the store brand, it's probably not going to be that great. And you just didn't even look at those if you were serious about your art. But then about probably 6 or 7 years ago, and I think it was about the same time that Winsor & Newton started having their Cotman watercolors made in China, things started coming out of China that were pretty decent. And I don't know if it was a correlation or causation. I don't know if it was different brands were sending their specs to Chinese factories and saying, make this like this. And then they realized that, oh, this is what people want. Let's roll out a few more versions and let other people private label them. I'm not privy to that side of the business. I don't know what happens in the manufacturing land. But at that time, when Cotman sent their stuff to China to be made, and they've done it for their watercolor markers, and they've done it for the Cotman watercolors, and I believe their Galleria acrylics, and they've come out with they've discontinued, many years ago, they discontinued their artist pastels, and they've come out with all these new products that are coming out of factories in the global south. I I feel, for one, like companies that are doing that are kind of trading on their name, and eventually people are going to get wise and then just not trust them at all. But I also think that these companies that have been making the budget supplies are getting smarter about what people are expecting and what people are willing to pay for. And if they can sell them to, say, Winsor & Newton for $15 a set, and Winsor & Newton turns around and sells them for $30 a set, they know they can sell them for $20 a set on Amazon and make money, or even sell them for $15 and get the money there that way. And so it's been such a murky mess, because there are so many good quality products that are sold on Amazon. But then there's also a bunch of junk, and you're not sure if any of the good stuff is going to stay good, that it makes me just want to use the legacy brand products. But then again, I know not everybody has the money for the legacy brand products. I'm just having a midlife crisis here, and I'm expecting you to solve it for me, Miranda.
I don't know. I don't know if I can.
Yeah. Miranda's like, what did I get myself into talking to this woman today?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. And yeah, some companies' reputations are going to suffer, but they'll just, all of us consumers will just go buy elsewhere. And we're still going to rely on your reviews though, Lindsay, to tell us what to
Oh,
get.
thank you. Thank you. One thing that I found to be very upsetting in the probably since the pandemic world of brick and mortar art supply stores. First of all, there's very few actual brick and mortar independent art supply stores. We've got the big box stores, and I feel like anytime I walk into one of the big box stores, and there aren't many, I can't find brand name products. And if I do, it's very, very basic. The supply is very limited, but there's so much store brand stuff, and the store brand stuff could be different from time to time when you go in. And for a beginner, that's going to be extremely confusing, because if you walk into any of your big box stores, you're going to see Winsor & Newton Professional. That's most companies seem to stock that. And you're looking at like double what you would pay at like Blick for like in these in-person stores. So you're looking at, say, $20 for a small tube of Winsor & Newton versus $20 for a whole set of their store brand. And as a beginner, it's not like they can ask the shopkeeper, what do I buy? I'm taking this class. What do I get? Because the staffing has been so low at these stores, and the staff that they do have don't necessarily know about the fine art supplies. And I just feel like there's not enough information for people to make wise choices if they're going into the stores, and there's not enough variety for them to actually have a choice. They've got either get the reliable thing but pay twice as much for it, or buy something that's probably going to make you not even want to paint anymore. And I don't know if it's because of all the competition that they're getting online, or they're just trying to pad their budgets a little bit more by only offering the store brands and the super marked up legacy brands, or what. It's I don't know. I guess I'm very muddled about this, about the modern state of art supplies, and deciding whether I should keep reviewing the budget stuff, or I should just kind of stick to the tried and true and steer people that way. Do you have any thoughts on that?
My initial reaction to that question is that if there's a very popular budget supply, that a lot of people are curious about and talking about, then I think that would be a good one to continue to review. And
Mhm.
at the same time, they're coming out a dime a dozen. So again, it would just have to be one that has stuck around, like people are continuing to
Yeah.
talk about. But
Yeah, like
by
the
that,
Mill Yang. That's such a tried and true. I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's okay. Just I don't know where I was going, so we'll just go on to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm totally off today. Yeah, I noticed that like a lot of the budget sets that I've reviewed over the years are the exact same thing as something else, like the Cotman, same as the Phoenix, same as the I think it's the same as the Miyahimi watercolors. Like you get that, and that's it's a pretty decent line of paints, but people don't need to buy it 5 times. If they have one of those sets, then they're good. Or like the superior master's level, that's the same as Etcher, Altenew. Let's see. There was
The
a Artify one that was the exact which one?
Viviva, maybe. Aren't they superior?
Viviva. Yeah, they're doing the thin pan. Yeah, the thin pans are them. Yeah, any of the fan pans are all superior. Any of their cork palettes from Viva are superior, and they actually fessed up to it. They're like, "Yep, that's what it was." Because I asked them, and they're like, "Yep, that's what it is." And I'm like, "Thank you for telling me." And
Yeah.
and people were fine with it. Like that's fine. I like the cork palette and I like the colors, so they appreciate the transparency. But yeah, it is starting to feel like there's nothing new. Everything is the same, and yeah, I just kind of feel weird giving some of these products a platform where people could be ignorant. Ignorance is bliss. People could not know that they exist and be absolutely fine and not be tempted by it. But yeah, it's a cognitive dissonance. I think probably a lot of people feel online because it's so easy to do a haul video and get a lot of push from YouTube on that. Whether people want to watch a haul video or not, it's what's going to get served up. Probably because YouTube is a business that's pushing their shopping affiliate thing. What is it? That YouTube shopping. Have you seen
Yeah,
that
the view
in your?
products. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, they're pushing that. So of course they want content that's going to encourage people to buy. So yeah, it just you kind of feel like you're fighting the system sometimes, and yet you exist in the system. And if you want to make a living, then you kind of have to go with the flow a little bit, but you also want to swim against the current. I don't know. But I thought your viewpoint was so refreshing.
Well, thank you.
So what's new for your YouTube channel? What do you have coming up?
It'll take at least a year, if not more, to get through all of these supplies because I've moved my channel from twice a week to once a week. I just have a lot. I actually like build, remodel homes on the side.
Know that? That's exciting.
So I have a lot of those projects and I need to really spend some time on them and then a lot of travel coming up too. So by moving my channel to a video just one time a week, you can imagine how long it's probably going to take just to get through the video I posted 2 weeks ago on that massive art haul, plus the art hauls I've done on the channel every other time in the past. I've probably only gotten to a quarter of the supplies in those hauls. So I have at least a year, if not way more, of getting through all those really fun things, mostly watercolor. I'm so excited about that. I have a database I'm updating with my watercolors that will be really useful as we go through this experiment. And then I have some watercolor comparison videos coming up. I want to continue my dot card series where I paint real paintings from dot cards. That one is it's just a joy to do that one, like to get a complete painting from dot cards and compare the different brands. That one is a popular series, not just for my audience, but I enjoy it a lot as well. It'll be fun to be able to have the time to get back to that. And I'd like to put some of my classes that I teach at the college, my art classes, I'd like to do them in an online format available through my website. So.
Yeah, that would be great. When you say you're a quarter of the way through your past haul products, do you mean you're a quarter of the way through using them up, or you're a quarter of the way through showcasing each of the products that you've hauled?
quarter of the way through showing them, which,
Oh, okay.
I mean, that
You got,
alone just tells you I'm doing art. It feels like every day. It's not quite every day because I do travel basically every weekend. We're gone 3 or 4 days a week, but it feels like every day I'm doing art and I still cannot get to all of this stuff. I mean, that alone should tell you if you go through, watch my art haul playlist and you'll see that there's tons of products I haven't even gotten to show you guys yet that have been in the art halls, just not
mhm.
used.
Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't know that you taught the engineering classes, and I didn't know that you remodeled houses. So yeah, I mean, that's really good because that's probably where a lot of like the viewers are coming from, a very similar viewpoint of I'm working a full-time job and taking care of my family and I'm traveling and spending time with my loved ones and making time for this hobby. So that's that's a really good viewpoint, I think, because I'm sure a lot probably people without a YouTube channel still don't collect as much as we do with the YouTube channel, but um, I think that will probably give them a voice of reason, kind of like, okay, I can breathe, I can take a step back and really dig into what I have without feeling like I'm missing out on something.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that I can inspire some creative artwork to happen. That's the hope.
So I got to ask, when you're remodeling these houses, do you pick out the color schemes and paint everything, or are you tearing down walls?
Yeah.
What's that like? I'm just like side quest here. This is exciting. This is interesting.
It's all of it. Yeah. I have fun because I can bring like the outside of the house up on the computer and just plaster a bunch of colors on it to see what color I want to paint it. And we completely redid the inside of this cute little house. Oh, my printer's going to make some noise back there. Just ignore it. Anyway,
Okay.
tore walls down, rebuilt them, got to pick paint colors for the inside. I do all the floors myself because I've known how to lay floors for decades, really. And it's just fun. I'm going to go do that in my camp trailer actually before my big trip to Canada in July. So I'm gonna lay a vinyl floor in my camper.
Wow. Does that keep you busy full time along with the teaching or?
Yes, it pretty much does lately. I had a big break
Yeah.
from rental homes. I had a collection of them, kept them, and just stopped buying for a while, but I started buying them up
Mhm.
again about 2 years ago. And then there's a couple that I want to build. So some little tiny homes I want
Wow.
to build. And so
Oh,
that'll start next
wow.
spring. And then we had a couple deaths in the family, so we were trying to get their estates and their homes fixed up and moved on or rented or
Mhm.
something. So a lot going on with homes.
Wow. So the engineering that you teach in the college, is it like the engineering part of like building houses, or is it more of a computer engineering type class?
It's all just computer software at the college.
Wow, you are so versatile. You have so much going on. I feel like I've only read a chapter of your book and there's so much more to learn.
I read the Rich Dad Poor Dad books when I was 19, 20 years old, and I just started buying houses when I was 20 because it seemed like a good idea.
Wow. Oh, that's exciting. Wow. I feel like that's a whole other topic. Probably not for a crafting channel, but
Right?
but that is so interesting. Well, uh I have really enjoyed this conversation. I'm sorry I was a little spacey there for a bit. It's been it's been a pretty packed couple of weeks. But is there anything else you want to chat about before I let you go today?
I just really hope that this no buy will inspire all of you to create something amazing in your own studios and that you'll still follow my channel even though I won't have like brand new products after a couple of years. I mean, I still have an Amazon wish list, so I'm sure my family will still buy me an art supply here and there, but uh yeah, just I hope that it's inspiring.
Oh, I'm sure it is. If you're going to keep uh, producing more videos, I think make the videos people will come. Sometimes I see people do a no buy and then they just stop making videos. It's almost like they're no longer inspired if they're no longer shopping. And I think that's such a shame because anytime you buy something, you have this optimistic, and even if you're not even buying something, if you save something like some cute jars or something after you've used up all the jam, it's like, oh, I could turn this into a tea light, or I could, you see some cute piece of furniture on the side of the road for free and you take it home to like paint it. It's not even necessarily that you're buying something, but as artists, we see inspiration in everything. We see a potential. And I think it's so sad when somebody does no buy and they just stop creating, as if, well, it's no point if I'm not buying anything. But there's so much that we can do with what we have. And I think adding voices like this to the mix is really, really important. And it's given me something to think about and to be really scrutinize what I allow into my space. And I wish you the best. I hope your channel grows through this, and I'm sure it will inspire a lot of people.
Thank you. I hope so. I think it's going to be good for a while, for all of us.
Yes. Are you going to do another advent calendar this year? That's something I was talking to in another podcast interview. I was talking to Becca Hilburn, and we were talking about advent calendars, and I was saying, who I think did a really good one was Miranda Watson, and she had your calendar. She's like, yes, it was awesome. So are you repeating that this year?
I got a little overwhelmed with my home projects. So I actually, because I want it to be super high quality, I am skipping this year. I absolutely am doing it next year though. But there's a bunch of little small business collaborations that I was planning on doing, and I want to just make sure they're top-notch, solid. And I need more time than I have in this year because, being gone the entire month of July, just couldn't pull it off and feel confident that I could give a high quality product. So sadly, not this year, but I will release my coloring book this year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. Is that the cat one?
Yes, the one I keep talking about and never releasing. I'm actually going to release it.
Oh, nice. Are you going to go through like the Amazon publishing, or are you?
I'm actually going to print it myself.
Nice.
So I hope
nice. You'll be able to control the paper.
Yeah, the paper is the problem. It's the reason I haven't released it sooner, because I picked a paper and then I've painted with that paper a lot in my watercolor classes at the college and realized I do not like the paper. So then I have to find different paper, and then that means a different size. So I kind of had to redo a lot of things. So that's one of the reasons for the delay on the cat coloring book, because I really want it to be something that everyone will enjoy and not be paper that's really frustrating. So it'll come out.
Oh, that's all. You are just such a go-getter. That'll be great, because I have tried some watercolor coloring books, and it's hit or miss out there with sometimes you get something like cardstock, sometimes you get, and I haven't tried a ton. I've tried some. And then some do great paper, and you just don't quite know. Well, I guess that's why we need reviews, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm going to put links to everywhere you are online so people can follow you. Where do you think people should go if they want the best Miranda Watson experience?
I am mainly on YouTube. So Miranda Watson Alkali Creek Art, or at Miranda Watson Art, is the best place to find me. I post on Instagram every once in a blue moon when I remember, but mostly YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, if you are listening to this in your podcast app, you can see the show notes in the show notes section of this. And if you are watching on YouTube, you can see all this information in the video description. Miranda, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. I want to thank everyone for watching or listening. And as always, happy crafting. Bye.
Bye.